Okay everybody, what have we got inside here? Yeah. It's got the word thermometer written on it, and that's a jar which we can use for checking the proof of alcohol. And that's a demijohn. Got a bit of tubing so we can do some racking. So basically, if I can get this stuff cleaned, we can start preparing some alcohol. We got more sugar there than you could shake a stick at. And inside here, right at the bottom, you can't see it, but there's a tub of sterilizing equipment, and there's even more sugar. So my next task is to get all this stuff clean and then start preparing the fermentation so we can start getting the alcohol together for the purposes of generating some fuel. Yeah, that's right, I'm doing this in the bath. I'm scrubbing down the bucket, just done the lid, and now I'm doing the bucket itself. You'll notice these little black spots there, alright? You might think that's just dirt. Well, it's more than that, it's actually bacterial matting. This has been stored in a loft area where essentially the natural agents of decay tend to live. So we've got to clear all that off, so I'm scrubbing it down. Plenty of washing up liquid inside now, plus everything else first, prior to even moving on to sterilisation. This is the sterilizer solution, a winemaker's or beer maker's sterilizer solution. It says for 25 litre containers, dissolve 3 to 4 teaspoonfuls of powder in 10 litres of warm water. This can then be swirled around the container, making sure the solution comes in contact with the sides and top of the container. The solution will take approximately 10 minutes to effectively sterilize. The swirling should be repeated several times during the 10-minute period. Equipment to be used, like spoons, airlocks, etc., can be soaked in this solution. Okay, now we got the yeast. First, prepare the water, making sure it's as close as possible to 40 degrees centigrade. Adjust the temperature necessary with hot and cold water. Adjust the start volume to exactly 20 liters. Then add sugar and stir until completely dissolved. Okay, so now I've got a sterilization solution going around inside there. I'm going to carry on swirling it around. The stench of chlorine coming off this is intense, so it's doing some good. I've got the lid of the bucket folded up in there, and I'll be using the solution to clean the container that's going to have the yeast in it as well. And then I'll soon start preparing the sugar solution. As it turned out, preparing the yeast in that separate container was not quite good enough, because that separate container was very small, and the yeast, more or less the moment it hit the water, started to come to life, and it foamed up big time. So it's been a bit of a rush job getting the fermentation set up, done. I just hope everything's okay, but at least everything should be hopefully very sterilized. Sometimes you can see instructions on a website which sound good. They might even look good. But in practice, there might be something wrong with them. So preparing your yeast in a separate container might be okay, but if it's a powerful yeast, you need to have a massive container to do it in, and I mean a massive container, otherwise it will expand big time. So be careful. Okay, so in there we got the hopes and dreams of a fair quantity of ethylene alcohol, or ethyl alcohol, or ethanol for the purposes of creating domestic fuel. 7 days time, we'll see how it's gone. Sure, we've had a bit of a, it was a bit of a drama. This is the first time I've tried growing my own gasoline, because I'm using the strongest yeast I can lay my hands on, so I just have to see how it goes. I've got a heater in here to make sure we can keep the temperature up at a reasonable level, because it's winter. And I'm doing this in the bathroom in case the yeast gets a bit overactive and wants to spill out everywhere, and I don't have it going straight into the carpet. This is still the first run, the first trial test, but we're bringing it all together and it's going to be totally cool. Okay, well there we have it. That's the first stages of me making my own liquid combustible fuel, which in this case will be ethanol alcohol. This is quite exciting. Now, with the type of yeast I've bought, it's going to take 7 days. What I'm probably going to do the next time I try it is a different variety of yeast, because there's so many different types on the market, and some of the quicker varieties of yeast can actually provide you with a 24-hour turnaround. So if you set it going first thing in the morning on, let's say, a Tuesday, then first thing in the morning on a Wednesday, you can start your distillation. I haven't bought that. I bought the one which is supposed to provide me with the best possible percentage. I'm not sure whether the sugar variety is right. I'm not too sure whether I've added the yeast in the right way. There's lots of little things I've got to experiment with and improve on, because this will be part of an art form which I will need to carry on for the rest of my life, so as I can carry on getting the right quantity and quality of fuel for myself. Now you might think, oh my god, that's such a drag. Well, maybe it is a bit of a drag, but on the other hand, if the alternative is just to rely upon the price security and stability of the oil companies, maybe it would be worthwhile making your own fuel. Okay. Another stage I've got to go through is to accumulate a database of companies that I can use to get their waste sugar from. So that means waste sugar from bakeries, waste sugar from soft drinks companies, and all the rest, just everywhere. There's a lot of restaurants in my local area, so I might be able to go to them and say, look, is there anything else that you've got which you want to get rid of, which I could possibly ferment? And they might say yes, and if that's the case, then hey presto, I'll be able to get myself some free stuff which I can then start to ferment. There will be ways of doing things. I've got to get entrepreneurial, I've got to get a database together, I've got to start contacting people left, right and centre to make sure that I can get the raw requirements for this particular project, which is of course sugar, and sugar when I need it, or fruit. Alright, pulped fruit would be a possibility. Yeah, it's going to take work, but I think that in the long run it's going to be cheaper. What I've done for you today is not the cheapest way of doing things, because I bought the sugar retail. I could possibly build a relationship with a wholesaler, possibly have like a section in my own loft or apartment in which I could just like stockpile tons and tons of sugar, which is a possibility. Just get myself a couple of 100 kilograms at a time, and then just take from it what I need for each fermentation, and maybe that will cut down the costs. There's ways and means of doing it, okay, that can make it economically viable. Buying retail won't be, but when you're going through your experimentation phase, then yes, it is probably more practical to do it this way. Okay, so it is exciting times. I'm quite looking forward to next Wednesday. I think it will be when it will be done. Getting this still up and running, and trying it with the first run, which is with the first modification but higher strength alcohol, and then the second run, which will be with another modification, which means the addition of extra copper piping on the worm, on the actual coil which comes out of the distiller, and seeing whether we can get a higher quantity of alcohol, quality of alcohol out from it, and we'll use the spirit hydrometer to be able to make sure that we can measure it. So that's all for now. Speak to you again soon. Links below as usual.